In the previous video, we covered how to enter receipts. This video will cover how to send the receipts, which is slightly different from how it was done in tithes and offerings, and we'll also cover how to do the bank deposit entry. So I'm on the receipt search screen, and we need to either print or email the receipts that have just been entered. So this screen does look a little bit different from the income search screen in tithes and offerings. So you have the filters, the period from and to, date from and to, who the giver was, the receipt number, the journal number, and these check boxes of unsent only, emailed only, or printed only. So in ACAS, you can now email receipts that were manually entered, provided you have the giver's email address set up on their client record. So the receipts from the previous week have likely already been printed or emailed, so we only want to see the receipts that were entered for this week. So the easiest way to do that is to click the Unsent Only box and then click Search. This will show just the receipts that were entered in the previous training video that have not been sent yet. So you can see we have the date, period, the giver, details, the amount, the status, which says not printed, the receipt number, and the journal number. Let's go and print or email these receipts. So we do that by clicking on Email Print Receipts, and any transactions that are showing in this list will come up to be emailed or printed. If you don't want to print or email the receipt, you can untick it, but just be aware that it does need to be printed or emailed initially for the journal to be recorded. So we will print the Deacon one, even though we don't actually need that receipt. We will print it to the screen. You can see that these two giver records have an email address entered. That's why it's defaulting to the send method of email. But if for some reason you don't want to email that, you would rather print it, just choose that on the drop-down list there. But if you want to print all, there is this button and that would change all of them to print. And that's what I'll do today. Note also that the training system will not send emails. So if you had a real email address, such as your own listed there, it won't send because it's been designed not to. Even if you leave it on email, you are allowed to do this, and it will look like it sends an email, but nothing will actually be sent. So I'll do that just to show you what will happen. So we'll click Next. And it firstly tries to email any receipts, and it will come up saying that one email has been sent. Over here, success, one email sent, and then we click Finish, and then the receipt report will be displayed. This looks similar to how it was in tithes and offerings, and you'll notice that there's a watermark in the back saying that this is not a valid receipt because it's coming from the training system. So here's the first one, received from Deacons. A receipt number has now been allocated. We have the amount, what the offering was for, and so on and so forth. If you want to actually print this, click on the print icon. If you want to save it to PDF, you can use this icon here, save it to PDF. Once you've chosen what you need to do, just click on the cross and that will close the report. That returns us to the receipt search screen with no entries showing. That's because we still have the unsent only checkbox ticked. So if I untick that and I can put in the date range from, I think, the 16th of the 9th was the first one that we entered, to the 17th of the 9th, and then click search. These 4 entries will show up again. And now that the receipts have been emailed or printed or sent, as we would refer to in ACAS, they now have a receipt number and a journal number allocated. In ACAS, we're making more use of the journal number. So in the search screens, you will see that the journal number is often the last column on the search results. And in these cases, because they have been manually entered, the receipt number and the journal number is the same. But if you have e-giving offerings in your search results, the e-giving receipt number will show up in the receipt number, so you will be able to track that more easily. You can see also that the status has changed. The one that we emailed says emailed, and the other 3 say printed. Now that we've recorded the receipts for the week, let's go and do the bank deposit entry. This screen has changed a little bit in ACAS, and hopefully it will make it easier for you to keep your cash drawer in balance. So only entries that were made in receipt entry using the cash or check payment method will show up on this list now. No other transactions use the cash drawer by default. So the first thing we do is choose the bank account that we want to deposit the funds to. So I'm going to choose the CMF bank account. Over in the depositor field, I haven't actually ticked anyone as a depositor on the client record, so I'll show you that after we complete this entry. It's not a mandatory field on the bank deposit entry. It's just something to help make it easier for you to track who's done your deposits. We'll leave it on the September period, and we'll go and choose the date as the Monday. We're a little bit behind here, but we'll go and choose the Monday date. And depending on the date that you enter is what transactions that will show up here. Only transactions up to and including the depositing date will show, because you can't deposit anything after the date selected here. So next we have these 2 fields for cash deposit amount and check deposit amount. Whatever you tick as being deposited will increase in these fields here. So out of our transactions that we entered earlier, we only have 2 that have gone to the bank deposit, which is these 2 here for the cash payment method. So I'm going to use this checkbox to select both of them. And you can see that comes to $739.55. That matches with the amount of cash I have, which is all good. And so I will click Save. A warning message says that we haven't selected a depositor, but in this case we will continue. That has now created the bank deposit entry and takes us to the bank deposit search screen. The transaction has not yet been recorded yet, so I'm just going to do a search for all bank deposits for the September period. So we can see here that these ones have a journal number and they've been printed. So that means they have been recorded and they can't be edited. They could be reversed but not deleted. You'll see if I click once to select it, the reverse button appears, but delete is grayed out. Whereas this one that we just did, because it has not been printed yet, it hasn't been recorded. So if a mistake was made, you are able to click delete, and that will delete that one entirely. And when you go back to bank deposit entry, those entries that were ticked off previously will show up again to be reselected. Let's go ahead with printing this one. And when I say printing, it just means displaying the report on the screen. You don't actually have to print it. So I've highlighted the one to be printed. We'll click the print icon. And the deposit slip, the same as in tithes and offerings, will be displayed showing the total over here. If we had any checks, their details would show up here. I've just noticed that the account details are showing up blank. That would be because they haven't actually been entered in the system. So if that's done in the chart of accounts, the account details will show here. So we don't actually have to print this. Now that we've displayed it on the screen, that is enough. So we'll just click Close Report. And our search results have refreshed, and you'll see that our status is updated to printed, and we now have a journal number. You can drill down into this bank deposit entry just to see what was recorded on it. So if I double click on that, that takes us back into the entry and shows the two transactions that were part of this cash deposit. A new feature that's also in ACAS is the ability to add attachments to records. Another thing you can do in ACAS now is upload attachments. So if you mouse over this information icon, it tells you what file type they need to be. So they can be PDFs, images, or Microsoft Office files. So click on Select File, navigate to the place that your file is. I'm just going to choose something off my computer here that's an image, and it will be uploaded. If you want to see the file, you can click on the link, and depending on what file type it is, as to whether it will be displayed on the screen or whether it will be downloaded. So that's all we need to do to be able to save an attachment. So you can click Cancel, and that will take you back to the bank deposit search screen. That's all we need to do for recording receipts and recording the bank deposit entry.